Hi guys, so we're gonna go over some COVID Twitter themes today. So first we're gonna start with the business and data understanding. I decided to use Twitter data and runs a script through Spider. I just thought, real-time data would be interesting to use. And because I was talking about a topic that is occurring currently, I thought Twitter would be the best place to do it. Um, I just used the words Amazon retail COVID. I thought they were kind of themes or things that have kind of been impacted during this time. Um, there's just been so much that has occurred during this time. I wanted to see what concerned people or what they felt like tweeting. I know myself, I've had a hard time wrapping around everything that has been going on. Um, And so I've seen different Twitter news alerts, such as stores declaring bankruptcy and things like that. And everyone and everything has just really been affected by this crisis. And I wanted to see if I could really discern any central themes um, that were occurring from this. So here's the script I ran in Spider to get my data. And then we're going to move on to the data identification and collection. So here's my raw data, pretty messy. As you can see, I had about 12,000 tweets. So I didn't run the Spider program too long. I ran it for just a few minutes. So it's clearly a very popular topic. So we're going to clean up that messy data next. So just kind of pulling out individual parts of the tweet, um, cleaning it up, saving the tweets to an individual so I can use that later. And then I decided to make some different labels of the different elements of tweets just so it would be easier to pull later. And I put them in a data frame just to kind of clean it up and make it look nice and presentable. Um, and then I decided to make an original tweets section only because it could be important to discern between what people are actually saying or are they just retweeting what other people are saying. I think just knowing people's original thoughts could be very important. So once we cleaned up our data, we're going to move on to the descriptive analytics. So I started running analytics based off of users. So just the different users, how frequent people are using or tweeting about these topics. Clearly there are some people that are tweeting about it quite a bit. And I just put it into a bar chart just to kind of make it easier to read, get a general idea from it. Then I went on to the visible users, most visible users. Um, so, and then the location of users, which I thought was kind of interesting. Clearly, people are tweeting all around the world about this, which makes sense. It is a global pandemic. Um, and then lastly, I ran some frequency distribution. Here are some words that I received from original tweets. And I did receive some Spanish words, just looking at the most common. I don't necessarily think this is bad data, though, just because it has Spanish words in it. I mean, it is a global pandemic. And I mean, if you were a global business that dealt in international markets, this could be really useful for you. Clearly, predominant Spanish speaking countries, maybe, or people are passionate about this. And so you could use that if your business was dealt with that in any kind of way. But just looking at this graph and the next one, you can kind of see that there aren't really necessarily you can't, with just the frequency distribution, you can't really get the idea that they're with just words, central themes that could be occurring from this. I think people are just tweeting about COVID. So there is a very wide variety of opinions and thoughts and themes around this topic, which would make sense. It wasn't really ideal descriptive analytics. Um, so in the frequency distribution, so I ran some analysis on hashtags to maybe get some more helpful information. I think I just ended up with the kind of the same consensus that people are tweeting about COVID, but what they're tweeting about COVID varies vastly. So I think the most useful thing that I did from descriptive analytics was user information. So I decided to do some more user information. And so here I just wanted to see the types of the popularity of the people that are tweeting this. And here I thought I got some really interesting information. So, I mean, 6 million followers, crazy. And I thought it was interesting. I got some politicians in here as well. Senator Warren, Ron Paul, Governor Cuomo. So, which makes sense that politicians would be tweeting about this, but that these tweets are being seen by a vast majority of people. I mean, 2 people have almost 6 million followers. So a lot of people. So next I moved on to content analytics. I think this would have been a little bit more useful. I didn't quite gain enough insight from descriptive analytics. So I first started off with sentiment analysis. So we're using the original tweets here, and we're just going to discern between positive, negative, and neutral tweets. I thought it was interesting. I thought most of the tweets would actually fall into the negative category, but they kind of were neutral. So, and so then I just kind of wanted to see the difference between the negative and positive tweets just to maybe kind of get an idea of what people are upset about versus like what maybe positive things people are tweeting about COVID. I thought it was kind of funny. Even gangsters taking COVID serious was one of the ones that popped up here. Then I ran some topic modeling analysis. So I'm just making, so here is just the beginning to topic modeling, going through all the steps, and then here is kind of the popular topics and the words associated with them, which this is kind of the most important thing in regards to my original hypothesis or question that I was wondering, just themes. And so you can see that, you know, people are tweeting, you know, best Amazon Prime, very popular. Obviously, politics are probably a pretty popular theme. People are clearly, in regards to retail, worried about jobs and the industry in general. You know, businesses being locked down in general, not just retail, is a popular theme. So you could definitely, if you wanted to gain some insightful information here on the themes. So those are just showing the most popular themes. So I just decided to do a word cloud of the most popular one. And we clearly know how some people are spending their quarantine. I don't know about you guys, but there's an Amazon package that shows up at my house every day. So I definitely fall into that category. Lastly, moving on to network analytics, I decided to run network analytics on mentions. The only reason I did this was because it was kind of one of the few components of a tweet that I hadn't run analysis on. So I had done users, I had done the individual tweets, sentiment, topics. So I wanted to see like maybe mentions could give me any more insightful information. So here's just the data frame, going through, pulling out the mentions, and here they are cleaned up. And here was my result. Quite crazy. I think it's incredible. how vast Twitter networks are in general. So I think what you could really discern from this is that information on this topic and in general is just so wide and vast. It's kind of incredible. But a lot of them, many of the larger mentions, the larger arrows on the network could potentially be politicians or famous people, because clearly they are tweeting about this. So now we're just going to kind of go through our findings and the conclusion. So overall, there were some interesting findings with this data set, and I'm just going to kind of go through it by section. So in regards to the descriptive analytics, when looking at the data from this perspective, it was hard to understand themes overall and feelings towards COVID. The most beneficial information from this section would definitely be the user data. Knowing the demographics and visibility of users can allow companies, researchers, and news outlets to know where the data is coming from and how accessible it is and who's seeing it. So the content analytics, in regards to sentiment analysis, they were overall pretty neutral. This may be because it's the only thing people really have to talk about, even if it doesn't fall into a positive or negative category. Topic modeling was where I was overall really able to answer the question I had at the beginning. There were no consistent themes. I was surprised to see retail was not more popular due to the issues going through this time, especially since I used retail as one of my search words. I thought it would just be more popular, but it was still definitely one of the more prominent themes. All of this information could be extremely useful for companies and that they may want to spread more positive COVID-related material in order to lift the spirits, or they can stay on trend by elaborating on topics that are popular to the general public, and just kind of informing their users on things that are occurring, very popular and prevalent. Lastly, the network analytics. Overall, this topic may be too broad for this depiction, but what you can interpret is the network is extremely vast. This means that information can reach a multitude of people. It's really quite incredible. In conclusion, I feel like any company could really benefit from running a similar analysis. This crisis affects everyone around the world and is reflected in the data. If you really wanted to be specific, then it would be important to gather tweets with very precise words. Using words such as COVID will gather way too broad of information. On the other hand, the data worked really well with content analysis. This is because we were trying to find overall themes and feeling across an entire spectrum. Overall, it would really depend on the end goal of the company. COVID-related data is complicated. This time is full of unknowables and can be difficult on companies to market in a circumstance they have never seen before. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. I had fun making it, and have a safe and enjoyable summer.